They tell you that you are free. They tell you that your vote matters, that your bank account is yours, that your labor belongs to you. But that freedom, it's an illusion. A carefully engineered mirage designed by systems far bigger than any single person. A matrix woven not of wires and screens, but of finance, debt, credit, and invisible leverage. Look around. Governments promise prosperity, but give you currency that loses value every year. Corporations promise choice, but every product, every service, every media channel is part of the same invisible network, nudging you, shaping you, feeding you what they want you to believe. Your money is digital chains. Your wealth is often just permission to participate in a game designed to benefit the few, while the masses consume, work, and pay. The financial matrix doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for consent. It moves silently, algorithmically, like water finding the path of least resistance. Central banks set interest rates. Governments create debt cycles. Billionaires and power networks monitor, adjust, and leverage every shift, every panic, every trend, often before the public even notices. The average citizen sees a paycheck. The billionaire sees leverage. You see a loan. The elite see a mechanism to extract wealth. Every mortgage, every bond, every public company, every pension fund, part of a grand invisible lattice that channels value upward. And while the masses fight over crumbs, the elite rearrange continents of capital, silently, invisibly, irreversibly. Ask yourself, what does freedom mean in a world where every currency you touch, every transaction you make, every credit card swipe is tracked, monitored, and influenced? What does it mean when governments dictate how much your labor is worth, when inflation is weaponized, when debt ensures dependency? You are not free. You are managed. Your choices are limited, your behavior predicted, your wealth controlled. This is not conspiracy theory. This is economics. This is power. This is the architecture of the modern financial matrix. Invisible, unstoppable, omnipresent. To understand the illusion of freedom, you must see the machinery behind it. Not the politicians, not the media, not even the corporations themselves. The real operators are the invisible engines of capital, central banks, sovereign funds, global lenders, and the hidden networks of elite financiers. They design the levers, the valves, the gates, through which every dollar, every euro, every yuan must pass. Take central banks, for example. They control the supply of money, interest rates, and the cost of borrowing. At first glance, it seems mundane, abstract numbers on a balance sheet. But in reality, these numbers dictate life and death decisions for entire economies. A slight adjustment in rates, and millions of mortgages become unaffordable. A subtle signal and global markets tremble. The elite know this, and they position themselves to profit before the market even reacts. Debt is their tool. Sovereign debt, corporate debt, consumer debt. It's not just money owed, it is leverage, a way to ensure dependency. Nations borrow to survive. Corporations borrow to grow. Individuals borrow to live. But every loan, every bond, every interest payment feeds the matrix. It creates a chain of obligation, a chain that flows upward to those who understand the system. Look at the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, or even private investment conglomerates. On the surface, they lend, they advise, they support. But the reality? They design cycles of dependency. Loans are never just money. They are instruments of control. Structural adjustments, regulations, and fiscal rules shape economies so that freedom for the many translates to leverage for the few. Every policy, every condition, every financial requirement is a silent nudge, directing nations and citizens along invisible tracks. And here's the part most people never see. It's not always about taking. Often it's about perception. The financial matrix thrives on belief. Currency stability is not just a metric, it's a psychological tool. Debt is not just a number, it's a mental leash. Inflation is not just an economic phenomenon, It is a subtle redistribution of wealth from the many to the few. Every citizen is participating in their own containment without realizing it. The ultra-rich and ultra-powerful do not need to legislate every move. They do not need to bribe every government. The system is self-reinforcing. Through ownership of assets, control of media, and influence over policy, they ensure that the game plays in their favor. They create the incentives, they define the rules, and then they let the masses play, unaware that every move feeds the matrix. Consider the bond markets. Nations issue debt expecting investors to purchase it. The masses see stability. Billionaires see an algorithm of risk, leverage, and reward. They know when a government is overextended. They know when a currency is overvalued. And they position capital to profit from crisis long before anyone else realizes a problem exists. Even currencies are part of this invisible enslavement. The dollar, euro, yen, they are more than mediums of exchange. They are instruments of influence. Nations that depend on foreign currency flows are tied to the will of those who control the supply. Financial crises, inflation spikes, currency manipulations, not accidents. They are tools, predictable and programmable for those who understand the code. And while the public sees chaos, the elite see opportunity. They do not panic during recessions. They do not fear crashes. They calculate, they execute, they absorb. They move silently, invisibly, leveraging the very fear and uncertainty that keeps everyone else trapped. This is why nations, even the most independent, remain tethered. No army, no election, no revolution can break the financial matrix. It is not an external force. It is embedded in every transaction, every loan, every contract, every economic decision. And those who control its levers control not just capital, they control the possibilities of entire societies. In the next block, we will explore how the elite orchestrate this system globally, the invisible communication, the synchronized movements, and how the networked few dictate the flow of trillions without ever appearing on the front page of a newspaper. We'll expose the methods of control that keep nations compliant and citizens unaware, revealing the mechanics of invisible sovereignty itself. Behind every currency, every bond, every leveraged transaction, there is a mind, or more accurately, a network of minds. The architects of control are not celebrities. They are not politicians. They are the invisible engineers of finance, the hedge fund titans, central bank governors, private equity magnates, and sovereign wealth managers who coordinate the flow of trillions with surgical precision. These individuals operate like neurons in a global brain. Each has a role, a node of influence, a specialized function. Alone, they are powerful. Together, they are unstoppable. Their decisions ripple silently across markets, policy frameworks, and economies, shaping realities without a single headline. Think of it like an orchestra. Each instrument, from interest rates to derivatives, from private equity to offshore funds, is carefully tuned. The conductor may never be seen, but the symphony is unmistakable. The crescendo? Market movements, national debt cycles, corporate collapses, and windfalls. The audience? Entire populations, oblivious to the score. Information is the ultimate currency. The ultra-wealthy do not simply collect money, they collect intelligence. They have access to proprietary data, private briefings, advanced analytics, and predictive AI systems that track every movement of capital in real time. By the time a trend is public, they have already exploited it. By the time a crisis appears on the news, they have already hedged, positioned, and multiplied their wealth. And here's the subtle genius. This control is self-reinforcing. Hedge funds influence markets. Markets influence policy. Policy influences debt instruments. Debt instruments influence economies, and the cycle feeds itself. Ordinary citizens see volatility and panic. The elite see predictable patterns, leverage points, and opportunities to expand influence without a single law being broken. Platforms and private networks amplify this effect. Encrypted channels, Invitation-only financial forums, private conferences, these are not just social gatherings. They are coordination hubs where information flows faster than the public eye can perceive. Strategic alliances are formed, moves are synchronized, and millions, often billions, of dollars shift invisibly, guided by consensus and algorithmic foresight. Consider crises like 2008 or the pandemic-induced market disruptions. To the masses, chaos reigned. To the architects, it was a playground. Assets were acquired below intrinsic value, competitors weakened, and regulatory gaps exploited. The financial matrix is not broken during crises. It is reinforced, sharpened, and expanded by those who understand it. Every decision is calculated, not reactionary. Risk is measured not by chance but by asymmetry, upside potential versus survivable downside. They place bets where ordinary players see danger, and yet the structure of their networks ensures that losses, if any, are absorbed without touching the core of their empire. This is why ordinary policy changes, elections, and media narratives rarely disrupt them. They are embedded in the system, not outside it. They influence it from within. They move quietly, legally, invisibly, and the world responds as if by coincidence. Control is not just financial, it is psychological. By managing perception through media ownership, narrative shaping, and strategic leaks, they guide public sentiment. Fear, trust, optimism, panic, all orchestrated subtly to ensure markets and nations act predictably. The masses think they are free. In reality, they are guided along invisible rails, feeding into the designed flows of capital and influence. And here's a deeper layer. The global system is modular. Failures in one region do not collapse the entire network. Entities in multiple jurisdictions, diversified instruments, and layered trusts ensure that even crises are survivable. It is resilience engineered invisibly. Wealth does not just survive, it compounds, unbothered by political upheavals, natural disasters, or public opinion. Strategic patience is their greatest weapon. They do not rush. They do not chase trends. They operate in decades, sometimes centuries. Generational planning, family offices, legal architecture, all serve to extend influence and control far beyond the lifespan of any individual. One empire becomes many. One decision echoes across generations. And yet, for all this power, it is invisible. The public sees only the surface: corporations, stock prices, media headlines. The mechanics, the flow of information, capital, and influence, remain hidden. That invisibility is intentional. Exposure invites regulation, scrutiny, and interference. The elite understand this. Visibility is vulnerability. Silence is power. By mastering these networks, the architects are able to coordinate trillions of dollars across continents, influence markets without leaving a trace, predict financial, political, and social outcomes before the masses, move assets in real time to exploit inefficiencies legally and invisibly, build generational empires that survive crises, wars, and economic collapses. The lesson here is clear. The financial matrix is not random. It is designed, maintained, and exploited by those who see the invisible threads connecting every corner of the global economy. Ordinary players believe they are free. The elite know they are architects, and invisibility is the foundation of sovereignty. In the next block, we will reveal how these secret networks operate digitally, the encrypted methods, private protocols, and ultra-secure communication channels that allow the elite to coordinate without detection, ensuring that their influence remains untouchable and their flows unstoppable. The world thinks finance is about banks, stocks, and contracts. They are wrong. Real power flows through the veins of data, encryption, and private networks, invisible, untouchable, and faster than any regulator can respond. Imagine a neural network, vast and interconnected. Each node is a billionaire, a hedge fund, a sovereign wealth office, a private bank. The connections are encrypted channels, digital conduits, Proprietary platforms. They speak a language the public cannot read, and through these veins, trillions move, decisions synchronize, and influence spreads. These are not emails or WhatsApp messages. Those are the streets, crowded and insecure. The elite operate in private enclaves, invitation-only platforms, encrypted communication nodes, and hidden protocols that cannot be intercepted. Here, discussions about billion-dollar moves, mergers, acquisitions, and strategic timing happen in real time. Mistakes are impossible to broadcast because there is no public feed, no replay, no traceable trail. Secrecy is not paranoia. It is survival. One slip, one leak, one misstep could cost billions. But within these networks, the flow is seamless. Information cascades only to those who need it. Decisions are executed before the rest of the world realizes an opportunity exists. Consider it like the bloodstream of an empire. Each piece of data is a pulse, each signal a heartbeat. Algorithms filter noise, highlight patterns, and alert operators to leverage points. The ultra-rich do not act randomly. They act with surgical precision, guided by intelligence no public institution can replicate. These systems are also multi-layered. Public markets remain visible, the front end, the showroom. But behind that facade lies a mesh of private agreements, derivative instruments, offshore conduits, and AI-driven analytics. By the time a trend becomes obvious to the public, the elite have already executed, hedged, and multiplied returns. Visibility is risk. Invisibility is power. Private networks are often invitation-only, vetted over decades. Access is earned, not bought. Connections are verified, reputations scrutinized, compliance audited. Once inside, participants gain access to early signals about geopolitical shifts affecting currency and capital flows, predictive analytics on market movement before algorithms used by the public even detect them, coordination channels to synchronize large-scale investments across continents, early access to private deals, acquisitions, and asset sales invisible to retail investors. Think about it. When the public reacts to market shifts, the elite have already positioned themselves. When governments announce stimulus, tax changes, or regulations, these networks have already calculated impact, moved capital, and insulated assets. The game is invisible, and the players are always decades ahead. Artificial intelligence now amplifies this power. Algorithms run across all nodes, analyzing risk, monitoring liquidity, detecting inefficiencies, and suggesting optimal moves. Humans make the high-level decisions. Machines handle the speed and scale that are impossible for ordinary players. This hybrid of human strategy and digital precision creates an empire that is unstoppable, untouchable, and invisible. These networks also serve as early warning systems. Political unrest, central bank decisions, or economic turbulence are detected long before they appear in mainstream media. When a storm approaches, capital moves silently to safety. When opportunity arises, capital floods in before anyone else can react. The matrix is not just reactive, it is predictive. Security is paramount. Multi-factor encryption, private servers, zero-knowledge protocols, and decentralized nodes ensure that no single breach can expose the system. Everything operates on layers of authentication and discretion. And yet, despite this invisibility, the network is seamless, efficient, and real-time. Consider the network like a hidden grid beneath a city. Streets above are crowded, noisy, chaotic. But underground, power flows without resistance. Trains move silently. Goods travel without interruption. Emergencies are mitigated before anyone notices. That is how Billionaires' financial networks operate. A hidden infrastructure beneath the visible economy, running the world while most people remain unaware. This digital infrastructure also coordinates global influence. Insider insights, industry forecasts, regulatory rumors, and strategic intelligence circulate through private channels before becoming public knowledge. Deals are synchronized, investments timed, and competitive advantage secured, all without leaving a digital footprint detectable by outsiders. And here is the key. This is not about secrecy for secrecy's sake. It is about sovereignty, control, and leverage. The more invisible the system, the freer it becomes. The elite do not fear scrutiny. They structure it. Compliance is built into the architecture. Transparency is managed legally, but operational power remains shielded. Every node, every connection, every signal is part of a living organism. The system grows, adapts, and evolves. Markets change, policies shift, crises emerge, and the network flexes, repositioning capital, coordinating influence, and preserving wealth. Ordinary investors see volatility. The elite see patterns. Ordinary institutions react. The elite anticipate. This is the digital Silk Road of wealth. Flow is invisibility. Strategy is acceleration. Timing is mastery. And the human mind alone cannot manage this scale. It requires AI, private intelligence networks, and decades of experience intertwined seamlessly. By mastering these networks, the elite achieve what most cannot even comprehend: freedom within the system, control over capital flows, and the ability to multiply influence while remaining untouchable. And yet, for all this power, the public remains blind. The systems are invisible, but their consequences are felt everywhere: in interest rates, stock movements, inflation, housing markets, and global trade. The world behaves as if it is free, but the architects of the digital financial matrix already dictated the flow. Next, we will explore how these digital veins connect with offshore entities and legal architecture to create empires that are both untouchable and untraceable. This is where invisibility, intelligence, and strategic design converge into true financial sovereignty. Once the digital veins are mastered, the next layer of power emerges: legal architecture. This is where the unseen communications, the encrypted whispers, and the predictive networks connect to entities, trusts, and holding companies across the globe. Think of it as a digital brain controlling a living organism of capital. Each signal received through private networks triggers movement through a web of legal entities. Every dollar knows its role: protect, multiply, or leverage. Every asset is mapped, monitored, and optimized in real time. The genius of the ultra-rich is that visibility is risk, but legal invisibility is power. By structuring wealth through multi-jurisdictional entities, trusts, foundations, and family offices, they create a fortress where money moves silently, yet exponentially. One misstep in the public eye could be catastrophic. But behind the layers, everything is pre-planned, compliant, and untouchable. Imagine a chessboard. Each entity is a piece. Each jurisdiction is a square. Each trust or foundation is a hidden layer beneath the board. When the public sees a company, they see a piece. But the real power flows through invisible chains of ownership, controlled by agreements, boards, and digital instructions that no outsider can trace. The ultra-rich don't just set up one account in a single country. They create networks of entities, each with a role. Holding companies consolidate assets and route profits efficiently. Trusts separate legal ownership from control, shielding beneficiaries while allowing strategic direction. Foundations preserve legacy and philanthropic influence without exposing the underlying wealth. Family offices operate as the central brain, coordinating all entities, tracking capital flows, managing risk, and implementing strategy. Capital becomes a living organism. It flows dynamically, not static. It moves before regulations change, before market sentiment shifts, before the public even understands the opportunity. Decisions are executed with precision because the architecture of entities and networks is designed for speed, invisibility, and compounding growth. Hedge funds and private vehicles amplify this effect. By layering derivatives, cross-border instruments, and leverage within this legal architecture, Billionaires magnify returns while insulating against risk. Ordinary investors see exposure and volatility. The elite see asymmetric opportunities, where gains can be exponential and losses are carefully contained. Timing is everything. Laws change, tax policies evolve, and geopolitical shocks occur. A billionaire doesn't react. They anticipate. Using encrypted networks, predictive AI, and multi-jurisdictional architecture, they position assets before rules shift. They create windows of advantage that last days, weeks, or even years, long before anyone else can move. Currency flows are another layer. Billionaires do not simply convert dollars to euros or yen. They execute multi-currency strategies, arbitraging interest rates, capital controls, and geopolitical risks. Every movement is planned, every conversion optimized. The money moves faster than regulators, faster than markets, faster than the human eye can detect. Here is the crucial insight. Legal structure is leverage. One properly set up entity can manage dozens of assets across multiple countries. One trust can shield billions while controlling entire business ecosystems. One family office can orchestrate decisions for generations, maintaining privacy and control. The system is exponential, not linear. But architecture alone isn't enough. Execution matters. This is why encrypted communication networks and AI systems are integrated into entity management. Signals flow from the mind of the billionaire through advisors, through algorithms, to entities. Capital moves silently, invisibly, and in perfect alignment with the overarching strategy. Even geopolitical risk is mitigated through this design. If one country imposes regulations or political instability arises, the network instantly shifts operations, reallocates assets, and hedges exposure. By the time a crisis becomes public, the billionaire is already insulated, protected, and positioned for opportunity. Ordinary wealth reacts. Ultra-wealthy capital acts preemptively. Every layer has redundancy. If a jurisdiction faces scrutiny, another entity assumes the role. If a market crashes, a hedge through a different entity cushions the blow. This redundancy isn't wasteful. It is insurance at scale, invisible, silent, and hyper-efficient. Consider this. Offshore entities are not secret hiding spots. They are strategic instruments. They allow capital to flow where it can be most effective, shielded from unnecessary taxation, market friction, and visibility. The billionaire does not evade law. They integrate with it, bending it to multiply advantage legally and invisibly. Transparency is controlled. Required disclosures are made where mandated. But the underlying structure, the pathways of capital, and the coordination of entities remain invisible to outsiders. This is the architecture of financial sovereignty. Finally, this system is generational. It is not designed for a single person, a single empire, or a single decade. It is built to endure, adapt, and compound for generations. Each entity, trust, and family office is a cog in a machine designed to survive crises, inherit intelligence, and multiply capital across decades. In short, offshore and multi-jurisdictional entities, Bosch shields for wealth. Encrypted communication networks, Bosch real-time coordination of capital and intelligence. AI plus predictive analytics, Bosch execution at a scale and speed no human can match. Layered legal architecture, invisibility, compliance, and exponential leverage. Generational planning, wealth that survives politics, recessions, and societal upheaval. And here is the ultimate point. Capital becomes untouchable, invisible, and unstoppable only when legal architecture, digital intelligence, and strategic foresight converge. Ordinary investors see accounts, stock prices, and regulations. Billionaires see the network, the flow, the organism. They don't just protect their wealth, they own the rules of its motion. Understanding this is the key to thinking like the ultra-wealthy. To replicate their mindset is not merely to save or invest. It is to design invisible systems that multiply, shield, and move capital strategically. This is the foundation of financial sovereignty and the bridge between wealth and true power. Capital in the hands of the ultra-wealthy is not static. It is not sitting in a bank account, waiting. It flows dynamically, invisibly, and strategically. Think of it as a river, constantly moving, constantly adapting, carving pathways through obstacles, reshaping the landscape as it passes. For ordinary people, money is linear. It comes in as income, is spent on expenses, may be invested into a savings account or a few stocks. It is slow, exposed, and reactive. But for the billionaire, money is a multi-dimensional current, accelerated by data, shielded by legal architecture, and executed by algorithms in real time. This is why the ultra-wealthy don't just preserve wealth. They amplify it at speeds that seem impossible to outsiders. 1. Real-time market exploitation. The ultra-wealthy use AI-driven systems that track thousands of signals across markets, currencies, equities, commodities, bonds, crypto. These systems don't just watch, they predict. When a shift is about to occur, the capital flows instantly. If a geopolitical event signals currency instability, billions are moved before the public even reads the headline. If inflation numbers suggest a shift in central bank policy, trades are executed before analysts publish their reports. The speed isn't seconds faster than the public. It is days, sometimes weeks ahead. Capital is like water. It rushes to fill gaps, to exploit inefficiencies, to capture yield where others cannot even see opportunity. 2. Multiplication through derivatives. Here lies one of the most powerful levers: derivatives. Options, futures, swaps, forwards. Instruments that magnify exposure while minimizing capital requirements. For billionaires, these aren't speculative plays, they are precision tools. A single derivative structure can hedge billions in assets while simultaneously unlocking leverage for exponential growth. Positions are layered across markets, making it nearly impossible for outsiders to trace intent or exposure. This leverage doesn't just multiply returns, it controls risk. For every offensive move, there is a defensive hedge. It is financial chess on a global scale, and every piece moves in coordination with predictive AI and encrypted communication. 3. The currency advantage. Currencies are the bloodstream of global capital. The ultra-wealthy don't simply convert dollars to euros when traveling. They use multi-currency strategies that exploit interest rate differentials, capital controls, and geopolitical risks. Through currency arbitrage, they profit from the differences in global monetary systems. $1 billion in the wrong currency can lose value overnight, but $1 billion positioned correctly can grow silently, invisibly, with no exposure. This is why billionaire capital is never trapped. It is fluid, liquid, and always several moves ahead of regulators and central banks. 4. Shadow investments and silent ownership. Not all capital flows through public markets. The ultra-wealthy use private equity, venture capital, and shadow investments to multiply influence while keeping control hidden. Private equity firms acquire distressed assets, restructure them, and sell for exponential gains. Venture capital provides exposure to disruptive technologies before they are visible to the public. Shadow investments, through trusts and proxies, allow influence without exposure, ownership without visibility. By the time the public is able to invest in a trend, the billionaire has already extracted exponential returns and moved on to the next opportunity. 5. Capital as influence. Here lies the deeper truth. Money in motion doesn't just create returns, it creates influence. When billionaires move capital into governments through bonds, they shape fiscal policies. When they move capital into industries, they shape entire economies. When they move capital into media, they shape perception itself. This is why the flow of billionaire capital is more than financial. It is political, cultural, and psychological. Capital in motion becomes control. 6. Timing and cascades. The greatest weapon of the ultra-wealthy is not money itself, but timing. They don't move with the herd. They move before the herd. They don't panic during crisis. They prepare years before crisis. They don't chase opportunity. They create cascades where opportunity flows directly to them. This is cascade orchestration, where one well-placed move unleashes a chain reaction across markets. Like Soros breaking the Bank of England, like Simon's algorithms squeezing profits from tiny inefficiencies millions of times per day, a single movement of capital positioned with foresight can unleash a self-sustaining wave that multiplies both wealth and power. 7. The invisible organism. This system is not just a portfolio. It is a living organism. Each entity is an organ. Each algorithm is a neuron. Each legal structure is a skeleton. Each capital flow is blood. And the billionaire is not just the owner. They are the conductor of an invisible symphony, directing capital flows with precision, foresight, and power. For the ordinary person, capital is a tool. For the ultra-wealthy, capital is a weapon, a shield, and a living extension of their will. Capital is not neutral. It is not simply a store of value or a medium of exchange. In the hands of the ultra-wealthy, capital transforms into a weapon of influence. It can bend governments, rewrite laws, manipulate public opinion, and even redefine what people believe is reality. The financial matrix is not built only on money, it is built on power disguised as money. 1. Politics. Bought, not won. Elections are presented as democratic contests of ideas. But beneath the stage, the candidates who rise are often those whose campaigns are financed by billionaires and elite financial networks. Campaign donations are only the surface. Deeper influence comes through think tanks, lobbyists, and hidden PAC structures that craft the narratives and policies years before the public debates them. Policies are not written by politicians. They are engineered by financiers and legal architects, then handed to politicians to present as their own. This is why governments often act against the interest of their people, but always in alignment with the interests of elite financial actors. The result? Nations become extensions of capital, not sovereign entities. 2. Media. As psychological architecture, control over capital means control over media. And media is not just news. It is the psychological operating system of society. Billionaires own the majority of global media outlets, directly or through holding companies. Media narratives can elevate a crisis or bury a scandal. A war can be framed as liberation. A collapse can be framed as progress. The public consumes these narratives without realizing they are pre-designed to maintain obedience, fear, or distraction. Through media, the billionaire elite does not just report reality, they manufacture it. 3. Culture as a weaponized marketplace. Culture is not organic in the financial matrix, it is engineered. Billionaires fund entertainment industries, music, fashion, and digital platforms not because of art, but because of psychological leverage. By shaping trends, they shape consumer behavior. By shaping consumer behavior, they redirect wealth. By redirecting wealth, they multiply their influence. Every viral trend, every manufactured celebrity, every movement that suddenly explodes is often seeded, funded, and accelerated by capital with an agenda. 4. Education as conditioning. The billionaire elite do not just play in politics and media, they infiltrate education. Universities are funded by billionaire foundations. Curriculums are shaped not to create independent thinkers, but compliant workers. The deepest truths about money, power, and systems are omitted from education entirely. This is why financial literacy is never taught in school, because if the masses understood how capital truly works, the matrix would fracture. 5. Crisis as opportunity. Where the average person sees disaster, The billionaire sees strategy. Wars destroy nations but transfer assets. Pandemics collapse economies but create monopolies. Financial crashes wipe out savings but open fire sale acquisitions. Every crisis is engineered or exploited to centralize wealth further into elite hands. And because billionaires control the very institutions that define crisis, they can time their moves with surgical precision. 6. Laws as weapons, not protections. The public believes laws are made to protect them. In reality, laws are designed to protect capital. Tax codes are written with surgical loopholes for the ultra-rich. Regulations often crush small competitors while exempting billionaire-backed corporations. International treaties are structured to ensure global capital flows smoothly for the elite while trapping smaller nations in debt. The billionaire does not obey the law. The billionaire writes the law. 7. The construction of reality. The final layer of this weaponization is perhaps the most dangerous. Reality itself is engineered. Through media, culture, education, and politics, the narrative of what is normal, what is true, and what is possible is controlled. The financial matrix convinces billions of people that their slavery is freedom, that their obedience is choice, and that their limitations are natural. The greatest victory of the financial elite is not wealth. It is that billions of people defend the very system that enslaves them. This is not conspiracy theory. It is systemic architecture. It is how capital transforms into the most powerful weapon humanity has ever seen. A weapon that doesn't just conquer nations, but reshapes the consciousness of humanity itself. The new frontier of control is not gold. It is not oil. It is data. Billionaires today wield a power far more precise than kings, emperors, or even past dynasties. Their weapon is artificial intelligence, fed by oceans of information that allow them to predict and shape the future before it happens. 1. Data as the new currency. Every click, every search, every purchase, every swipe, it is all recorded. Data has become more valuable than oil because it does not just fuel industries, it fuels control. Billionaires and their corporations build empires by harvesting, buying, and trading data flows. With enough data, they don't just know what people do, they know what people will do. This predictive power allows the elite to steer markets, manipulate societies, and engineer consent invisibly. 2. Predictive algorithms, the oracle of the elite. The ancient world had oracles. Today's billionaires have algorithms. AI models ingest trillions of data points to forecast stock movements, political unrest, even pandemics. Hedge funds like Renaissance Technologies or Citadel use AI not to gamble, but to calculate with surgical precision. Governments react after events. Billionaires anticipate before they happen. This is why the financial elite seem untouchable, because they are playing a game where they see the future first. 3. Surveillance capitalism. The average person believes they have privacy. They do not. Phones, apps, smart homes, cars, even wearable devices constantly leak information. Billionaire-owned corporations package this surveillance into behavioral maps. These maps allow precise targeting, from advertising to elections. Your preferences are not random. Your decisions are not free. They are nudged, predicted, and engineered. 4. AI and the market matrix. Markets no longer move by human hands. The stock market, commodities, cryptocurrencies, all are dominated by machine-driven strategies. Billions are traded in microseconds, where AI detects and exploits patterns no human could see. The elite deploy autonomous financial organisms, algorithms that evolve, adapt, and grow more intelligent with each trade. The illusion of a free market collapses when you realize the market is an AI-driven simulation controlled by billionaires. For the ordinary investor, it is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. 5. Social engineering at scale. AI is not just used in finance, it is used in shaping human thought itself. Algorithms decide what you see on your feed, what news trends, what content vanishes. These invisible architectures of attention funnel entire societies towards certain emotions: outrage, fear, consumption. Billionaires don't just own media, they own the algorithms that determine reality itself. In the Matrix, freedom of thought is an illusion when thought itself is curated. 6. Nation-states versus billionaire AI. Governments lag behind, bureaucracies are slow, but billionaires with private AI labs and limitless capital operate years ahead. Nation-states try to regulate AI, but the elite fund and control the regulators. This creates an asymmetry. Nations play politics, while billionaires play chess with the future. The result? Governments no longer lead. They follow the algorithms owned by the elite. 7. The silent empire of predictive power. The true empire of the 21st century is not Rome, not America, not China. It is the silent empire of predictive AI, owned and operated by the billionaire class. They do not need armies when they control behavior. They do not need borders when they control data flows. They do not need consent when they can simulate it. The financial matrix has upgraded. It is no longer just about debt, capital, or control of resources. It is about owning the future before it happens. And this is the greatest illusion of freedom, when every decision feels like your own, but was actually anticipated, modeled, and shaped by an algorithm you never even knew existed. The financial matrix is not static. It evolves. Every empire seeks consolidation, and the billionaire elite are no different. We are moving into the final phase of financial control, a system where money, identity, and freedom itself become programmable. 1. The central bank digital currency, CBDC revolution. Governments present it as modernization. In truth, it is the ultimate leash. Programmable money. Every transaction can be tracked, traced, and even blocked in real time. Unlike cash, CBDCs allow governments, and the elites behind them, to decide where, when, and how you spend. Imagine, your digital wallet is automatically restricted if you buy too much fuel, meat, or anything disapproved by policy. Freedom of exchange, gone, replaced by conditional money. 2. The death of cash and the final capture. Cash has always been the last refuge of autonomy, but cash is being phased out under the banner of efficiency, security, and progress. Once cash disappears, every human exchange will be inside the matrix. Financial exclusion becomes a weapon. Step outside the system, and you simply cease to exist economically. Billionaires and technocrats frame it as innovation, but it is a cage disguised as convenience. 3. Digital identity, the key to the new matrix. CBDCs alone are not enough. They must be paired with digital identity systems. These combine financial data, health records, social media, biometrics, and behavior into a single profile. With digital ID, your access to money, travel, education, even healthcare can be switched on or off like a light. The illusion is that you opt in. The reality is that participation in society will soon be impossible without it. 4. The merging of state and corporate power. The matrix is not run by governments alone. It is a fusion of public authority and private wealth. Tech giants provide the platforms. Banks provide the infrastructure. Governments provide the legitimacy. Billionaires orchestrate from behind the curtain. The line between democracy and corporatocracy blurs and finally vanishes. 5. Social credit, the algorithm of obedience. Already tested in parts of the world, the social credit system assigns scores to individuals based on behavior. Pay your bills, follow rules, promote approved content, and you are rewarded. Dissent, resistance, even questioning the system, and you are punished. Low scores mean restricted travel, blocked financial access, or exclusion from opportunities. This is the financial matrix's final upgrade. obedience encoded into daily life. 6. The global consolidation. For centuries, power has been fragmented across nations, but the financial elite think in planetary terms. Supranational institutions like the IMF, BIS, and WEF already coordinate central banking policy. The dream is a unified global system, a world grid where money, identity, and governance merge. The billionaire class no longer sees borders. They see nodes in a global control network. 7. The final illusion of freedom. The genius of the Matrix is that it does not need chains, prisons, or armies. It gives you the illusion of choice, while every path is already engineered. It convinces you that digital slavery is progress. It rewards compliance with convenience and punishes rebellion with invisibility. In the end, the financial matrix is not just about money. It is about total capture of the human experience. The endgame is not merely wealth. It is absolute control over reality itself. The financial matrix thrives because most people never realize they are inside it. But once you see the code, the game changes. This final block is about agency, how the individual and eventually entire nations can resist and outmaneuver the machinery of elite control. 1. Awareness as the first weapon. The matrix operates on invisibility. Once exposed, its power weakens. Begin by questioning every assumption. Why is cash disappearing? Why are CBDCs pushed so aggressively? Why do the same billionaires sit at the table of every global solution? Simply asking the right questions already fractures the illusion. 2. Building parallel systems. Throughout history, empires collapsed not because they were overthrown, but because people built alternatives. Decentralized finance, local currencies, peer-to-peer exchanges. These are not perfect, but they represent escape routes. Communities that trade, share, and innovate outside official channels slowly undermine the matrix. 3. Information sovereignty. The elite thrive on controlling narratives. Break free by curating your information diet. Cut propaganda, follow independent researchers, learn the mechanics of money, and study history beyond the official textbooks. When you reclaim your own mind, you deny the matrix its greatest weapon, your unconscious obedience. 4. Sovereign skills and assets. Nations fall when citizens cannot survive without the system. Individuals who cultivate skills, energy independence, food sovereignty, digital literacy, and financial acumen are harder to enslave. The billionaire elite may dominate markets, but they cannot easily dominate people who no longer need them. 5. The power of networks. Ironically, the same concept that empowers billionaires, tight, discrete networks, also liberates individuals. Building trusted circles of allies, entrepreneurs, creators, and thinkers outside mainstream institutions creates islands of freedom. Small sovereign networks can challenge global giants through resilience and adaptability. 6. The return of human spirit. The financial matrix enslaves not with chains, but with psychological submission. The greatest resistance is to remain human in an age of algorithms. Creativity, courage, love, and truth-telling, these cannot be coded, cannot be taxed, cannot be erased. 7. Transcendence, beyond the matrix. The goal is not only to resist, but to transcend. To understand that freedom is not granted by governments, nor billionaires, nor systems, but claimed by individuals who refuse to play by the rules of the cage. The financial matrix may dominate nations, but it cannot conquer the awakened individual. The illusion of freedom is collapsing. The matrix grows stronger, but so does awareness. In this battle between control and liberation, one truth remains unshakable. The power of the elite exists only because we give it to them. And the moment we withdraw that consent, the matrix dissolves.